Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Covenant Cast. I'm your host, Zach.
And I'm Steven, and we are in the thick of what I would call big release November. We've got Destiny, we've got KeyForge, and we have got Warhammer Champions, all of which have new things on the horizon. So we're going to dive right into that. Stay tuned. Well, let's get into the cast, Zach. We're here. We're doing it. We're live.
We'll do it live.
So like we said, there's a bunch of big releases coming up here. You can see if you're on YouTube, we've got a box of Across the Galaxy here sitting right next to
And if you can't, you can hear it.
Yeah, let's...
It's a real box.
It's got the... Is this still the Millennium Falcon?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't know the blue and stuff. Is that just the young one? Is that the solo version?
The young Falcon.
It's also got... who's this?
Iden Versio.
Iden Versio.
He's from Battlefront.
And Commander Cody.
Commander Cody from the Clone Wars.
Yeah, I mean, one of the coolest looking.
This is actually pretty cool. I haven't really noticed this, but we have Falcon from Solo.
Okay.
From the in between episode 3 and 4 era. We have Commander Cody from the Clone Wars, which is in between episode 2 and 3.
Also, may I say, one of the new Star Wars things that makes me feel the most like old Star Wars.
The Clone Wars is great.
Just the look of it and the vibe and the whole framing of the thing.
Well, one thing that's cool that they've been doing, and they did this in the LCG as well, but these Clone Wars and Rebels characters, Clone Wars and Rebels have their own unique art style.
Yeah, they sure do. It kind of turned me off originally.
The way they do this is that they do their FFG art style mixed with that.
I think it works great.
Which is cool. So that's the most realistic looking Cody I've seen, besides in fan art or whatever. And then you also have Bashir from the originals, Leia in disguise. You have Qui-Gon on a card.
Really? When did that? Was that Return of the Jedi?
Yeah, she sneaks.
Gosh.
She sneaks into.
It's so easy to forget that movie.
Ouch.
I do. Objectively,
they sneak into Jabba's palace to rescue Han, and she's dressed up as Bash.
I definitely remember that plotline. So we got Across the Galaxy here. So it's the first of the releases, and by the time this podcast is up, all of our boxes will have shipped out.
They'll probably be delivered.
Yeah, probably be delivered.
If you're in the U.S., they shipped out. Before the podcast.
We got a message. Guy said, "Hey, you just shipped. I just got my shipping notification. 4 boxes. That means they're going to be here on release day. I love it. This is great. And it's we love it too. That's something we've been working on for a long time.
I mean, you don't the idea of a major because with Destiny, unlike an LCG at least, you only get 3. If you're lucky, 3 releases a year.
Yeah.
And you don't know when they're going to happen, and sometimes that happens sporadically. Anyways, the point of that is that you want to have stuff on release.
Can we promise that yet? Are we comfortable promising that? We probably shouldn't.
The problem is that you take any of our subscription products and you ship them. And I remember
Amazon still has struggles with that, and they control.
They basically own USPS.
USPS.
Yeah, but what I was going to say is that there was one time we were waiting on our boxes to come in for a set. And it's when one of the hurricanes hit, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. But that delayed our shipment getting here. And then that also backed up the post office because they just kind of stopped running in that area for a while. So, stuff happens. But in general, subscriptions arrive on release in the U.S. specifically.
In general, on the U.S. So Destiny's going here. And Zach, I want to talk to you extensively today about, you've been in the what do you want to call it? It's like the boiler room.
I was going to call it the grinder.
It's the grinder. Putting together saga sets with many other folks in there. And so that means you've had hands on new cards, and you've seen, even in passing, in the moment that it takes you to unpack into a thing.
Well, that's one of our, when we're making those sets, because they're pretty inexpensive to make. But one of the rules of Fight Club, as it were, is don't read the cards.
Yeah.
Because there was one set that, I think it was the one that, Way of the Force, that came out in July. Late notice that it was coming out, and there weren't very many spoilers. So the first day we're opening it, it's brand new to us, right? And all of a sudden it's ooh, have you seen this card? And no, everyone's like, no, what does it do? And then they read it off, and then the reality is it takes too much time. Because speaking of release, we're trying to get those saga sets out as fast as possible.
Yeah, and the production stalls if you read.
That's right.
Let's not forget.
I've read a lot of cards. I have a lot of thoughts, and I will be happy to get into that.
I'm going to talk to you about it. Then we got KeyForge. So this is a big month for FFG, clearly. Mm-hmm. So you've got Destiny, they're a big collectible title. You've got KeyForge next week. Is that right?
November 15th, yeah.
November 15th. Woo, it's all coming up. It's happening. And I think it's time to get KeyForge to the people. If this had lingered any longer, I think it would kind of have lost. It's already lost a little bit of its shine, but I think they're kind of still in the balance pocket to me.
I feel like it's a low enough barrier of entry that like they had a little extra time to get in. Because like if it's like Legion as an example was one of those where like they just waited. Flying around or something.
Yeah, there's like a
but Legion, they kind of waited, and then by the time it actually came out, it's like a $200, $300 purchase.
Yeah.
And you have to really be ready to do it. But like with KeyForge, it's like if it shows up at your store and it's $10.
And you know what?
But I agree with you.
Isn't that the thing
there's a big delay.
There's the thing about kickstarting is like...
Same problem.
But the thing that kickstarting does is you can get people jacked on the hype train and then give them an immediate... You got to do your $300 purchase now or never kind of feeling, and they do it. A lot of the time, they do it, and then they likely regret it later. But with a game like Legion, like if you get on the hype train, and then it's like I can't stay on the hype train for 6 months. Like, I got a family. I've got to go cook steak tonight.
Just stuff happens, right? Like I mean, the new set of Destiny's coming out, so like any Destiny player that was excited now has something to completely fill their time.
Yeah.
And I know like even X-Wing, which is another one of their games, is supposed to have a wave coming out in November-ish, is what I've heard. So same kind of thing where like timing of releases compared to your products and the rest of the industry and what's going on in life. They're doing it the week before Thanksgiving, which is either the best or the worst thing.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, the worst thing would be releasing it on Thanksgiving. Who would be crazy enough to do that?
It's never happened before.
But the reality of like, this could be the kind of game, and this game is KeyForge is just different. It's on a different paradigm, right?
I just want to see what it does, right?
That's where I'm at, because like it could be great right before Thanksgiving because people can buy decks, take it home to wherever their family's at, and you can play this with a number of people that otherwise would not play. And I've definitely been in the situation of Thanksgiving where it's like you take a board game that you think you will enjoy and your family will enjoy, but it's not a card game.
Yeah.
But the idea that you could take a card game is, quite interesting.
And a lot of people have the one family member they can, that's into it, or that they can get into it. You got at least one brother.
I definitely have one brother that's all about it.
And I will tell you this about KeyForge: if you have 2 kids from the ages of maybe 8, I don't know how kids work yet.
Eight's fine.
7 or 8 to 10 to 11. I'll show you my experience, or even at 12, 13, 14. Our father, I think it was about every Friday, would just bring home something kind of small and interesting. It was called, what was it called? Friday Night Surprises.
That's fun.
What we call them, yeah.
Sometimes
he'd hide them.
Good little tradition.
Sometimes if he was coming home late on Friday, he'd hide them, and then there'd be a scavenger hunt Saturday morning, you'd find them. But it was like...
Did he ever not do it?
I don't know.
Because I feel like that could be like, you wake up Saturday morning, it's like, where's it at?
Yeah.
And then there's nothing.
I don't ultimately know. I just remember all the positive things about it. I don't remember any kind of letdowns. But that was kind of back, that was in the heart of, I was born in 87, so this was like mid-90s, when you could go anywhere and find a pack of anything. Like a random collectible thing here, or like a weird box of toys here. I got into Z-Bots and stuff, and so there'd be randomly like little Toys R Us things. But also like Pokemon packs and
every other collectible game for every IP ever.
And if I were to get like a new KeyForge deck every Friday or something, as a kid, that would be the coolest experience I could possibly have. Jonathan and I would open them up, we'd play all week, and then we'd be like, oh my gosh, we get new things to play with.
It's whatever.
So if you're in that situation, don't sleep on this opportunity to just kind of surprise the children every now and again with some new KeyForge decks. I think that's a place that this game can go that obviously a lot of other games can't.
I think a lot of adults are doing that as well.
Yeah.
They're like buying a display of 12, and it's like, I'm going to open one a week for a quarter of the year.
I give myself many Friday night surprises, my own self.
Yeah, right? My own KeyForge decks.
I just spend my paycheck.
That's so funny.
And then we've also got, let's not forget Warhammer Champions. Now this is
I'm so happy it's coming the week after Thanksgiving, the second set, because my body couldn't handle it.
This is a game. We can read that a lot of ways, but this is a game that is in what I would consider a bit of a purgatory right now.
And this is normal, though.
It's normal, and every game goes through, especially as we're getting ready for the new set, and we're like, you don't really want to play the game in its current state as much because you feel like it's kind of been solved, but at the same time, they have gotten themselves into a pickle where the game in its current state is not the ideal gameplay experience that you want to have. it's still, and they've been trying some tests to bring in destruction and stuff. There's still some very overpowering decks, archetypes, etc., that feel very kind of NPE, like there's nothing I could have done about that, hands up kind of stuff.
Well, and I mean, that also, like, besides just the negative experience there, games get, especially after a first set of, like, a collectible game, in that solved state, where even if it's not true, even if most people think they've figured it out, you hop on the app and play, and you just see the same stuff over and over again, or you show up to a local store and play, and it's over and over again. And so, like, it's the natural, like, valley to me in between the peaks.
Especially with the first set, because, like, if you're running a themed deck, you have all of the cards that can possibly be in the deck, and there's pretty much nothing remaining in the card pool to explore.
Yeah.
So you get a second set, you get some more, like, for me, more elves, maybe more Stormcast units. And you get some new themes that you can start to explore. And now maybe we see some synergies and things that are interesting. So I think the set needs to get out. I think it's interesting to go from a place of what seems to be kind of a wobbly balance right into a new set. Because what's going to happen is it's either going to get worse or better.
Unquestionably, it's unlikely to remain the same.
Those are the two options. So I think all eyes are on Onslaught for Champions. And even then, like, from Onslaught, you can even get dramatic about restricting or otherwise errating or banning cards or whatever, but that will force the issue and say, like, okay, we're 2 weeks into Onslaught, this Gordrak thing is still a problem, or like these cards are still a problem. Do we do something or not? And I think you have to act pretty quickly, or else people kind of assume that the game is on a downhill turn.
I mean, Destiny went through a spell like that.
Oh yeah, I think it's encountered that many times.
Yeah, but there was the particular, like, Pomaz 9s era.
Just awful, really.
It wasn't just like the mill apocalypse that happened recently.
Yeah.
It was just more like, these are obviously better, and no one's saying, like, they're not doing anything about it.
And it was a younger card pool, wasn't it? Was that right after Spirit?
That was after set 2.
Yeah, see, that's...
It's dangerous territory. You got to be careful. Because what happens is, and I mean, we've talked about this a lot on the podcast, but the spike of interest and excitement is the highest in the first set, typically. Yeah. And then people get the game, you're obsessed with it, you have everything to solve, right? The card pool and the game itself, how to, like, work the game. And then over time, it becomes less about figuring out the game and valuing cards and way more about just manipulating the cards.
Right.
Which is why, like, a card pool is nice to expand. But the reality of, like, you have this peak, and then it's very normal after a couple months for there to be a valley. And then the second set, the hard job is that the number of people you get, it's kind of like in a retail environment, the number of people you get to come back into that second set is so important. Because, you know, even just for easy math, if you have 100 people playing the first set, and the second set, either you can have anywhere from 0 people coming back to 100, right? And most games probably only get 70 to 80 of those people back. But the thing about those people is those 70, 80, I feel like, are way more likely to stay.
Yeah, for the long haul at that point.
Longer, by set 3, you're maybe down to like 70.
Yeah.
And then those people are in. Then your challenge becomes, like, adding players at that point, finding ways to get new players in faster than people that might be going out the door if you want your community to continue to grow.
And you know what the thing that strikes me about PlayFusion, which is why I'm so hopeful about it, is they seem so not bound by traditional norms and challenges. I almost want to say chains because my mind's on KeyForge. But I think of any group that's going to find a way to blow up the get new players in on set 2 or set 3 or set 4, they'll find something, right? They've got this technology component that they're super good at. They've got a lot of reach that they potentially have access to. They've got the ability to scan physical things to make an impact. And so, like, I guarantee you that they're going to try to do something big they think big. I think PlayFusion is thinking big with things.
Well, they're not. They're like, what do you call it? Naively ambitious?
Yeah.
It's like they don't know better, so they just figure it out. I forget what. There's some movie quote where it's like, we didn't know any better, so we just did it. Right?
Yeah, we've been there
but I
9
think,
years of our history.
You know, talking about, like, yeah, right. That's correct. But the reality of, like, they have one thing they have that a lot of companies don't is data, which is they're seeing these people play all these games on the app, all this stuff happening, and, like, if worse comes to worse, they can be very aggressive in their fixes. But I also, beyond that, feel like the harder they lean, and I think this is true of any game, that's why I'm so excited about KeyForge, lean away from the format of the game that is build the best deck, be the most optimal in terms of actions and damage and all that kind of stuff. The more and more balance doesn't really matter as much.
That's true. Yeah.
And that's the thing I'm like, I wish it was on the app right now, right? Which was like the campaign, achievement-based, thematic storytelling, have an impact on the world and the future sets and what cards are going to get revealed.
Yeah,
that kind
that
of
makes
thing.
a lot of sense.
Because then it's like, because right now orcs are just objectively more efficient.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. It compresses over and over and over the course of turns.
Yeah, and that's your base number one set. So like, what are you gonna do? Get rid of those cards? Like that's
Yeah.
Yikes.
Exactly.
That's a problem.
Yikes.
Yeah. But anyways, we are in a valley. I'm curious to see because set 2 is coming out, and this is only like 3.5 months after set 1, which is cool because they also reprinted set 1. And it definitely seems like they're starting to get their house in order because like the organized play kits are starting to show up.
Yeah.
And I'm still just like very excited to watch their next 6 to 12 months.
Question to you: Do you think that the app and the first set was all live and functioning before set 2 design began, or do you think that set 2 was blind and that starting with set 3 they'll actually have access to that data?
I can't imagine that when they got to Gen Con with set 1, that set 2 wasn't at least almost done.
Yeah.
Because if it wasn't, then you're just talking about printing, right? And I don't think a set of cards can get printed any faster than 4 to 6 weeks if you're like booking it.
Yeah, it'd have to be so fast and distributed.
And the thing that they did though is like 6 to 8 weeks, they reprinted and got the first set back in.
They seem to be moving.
So like, it's fast.
It's happening.
But at the same time, it's like I have to imagine that they were at least probably 80% into design and testing for set 2 when the first set came out. And I think maybe what you're alluding to is if like how much of set 2 was designed with real life knowledge and real life data.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
That's what Destiny went through.
Yeah.
Because they have the dice thing, which makes it even longer to print.
Yeah.
And the first 2 sets were designed before the game came out.
Isn't that crazy? Can you
And
imagine the stress?
that's where, in my opinion, that's where 95, 98% of any problem in that game has come from, is those first couple of sets.
Yeah. Hey, they're about to go.
They are excitedly about
Across
to go.
the 6, right?
Yeah, we got one more.
So we're one set
This
away.
is it. This is like the end of madness.
Well, let me ask you one quick question on Champions. Of the spoilers that you've seen, what do you think about set 2?
So I haven't seen that many spoilers. I'm not a huge spoiler
Are you staying away from spoilers
person.
right now?
I've seen the spoilers we're going to be spoiling.
Yes. I've seen those as well.
Which I'm excited about because they explore a chaos theme that I'm excited to actually explore, even though, so again, like I'm just not approaching it. I am a little bit on the app, but I found myself discouraged from playing ranked because I also started realizing I was starting to get into that mindset.
Yeah.
The like optimize and dominate mindset. So I just wish there was another outlet. Anyways, there's stuff I'm excited to explore. I just want more cards. I feel like the 2 or 3 decks I really wanted to build, I'm only playing Chaos. You're only playing Order. So like it's way tighter than like even a full set to explore. But I'm ready just for new stuff. Do you have any that are like particular?
Well, we should say we are going to be revealing those cards in a really fun way. So you and I will be playing decks with those cards in them, and as the spoiled cards come up, we'll actually show them off and talk about them a little bit.
On our stream on Monday.
Yeah, so you can cast it on Monday's live stream. So if you're listening to this, it went up on Friday, or it's up now on Friday. Happy Friday, everybody.
We
did
did
you
it.
had a great week.
Happy Destiny launch weekend.
Great weekend. And then catch us on Monday. We usually start around 4, and we're going to...
Central Time.
Yeah, we're going to make it happen. And then pictures will be posted everywhere, I'm sure, as well.
Yeah, spoilers from the second. The last thing I want to mention about Champions, because I feel like we're not going to come back to this topic. Did you have something else there?
Yeah, the spoilers I think there's good in the spoilers and there's bad in the spoilers.
What are you nervous about in the spoilers?
I think the thing I'm most nervous about is the design approach of just give things more damage. I think the game's already a little too fast, a little too efficient, and when you start piling on multiple effects that are just buffing damage everywhere, you get stupid turns that's like 10 damage, 11 damage, game's over. I think that really does a very strong disservice to the elegance of the actual system, where you have limited positional considerations that you have to think about, and you have to play your units in temporal fashion, to really think about when turn 3 is here on this one, what's the second turn unit going to be doing? And I think the more that you allow people to just spam out abilities and buff damage and do crazy things, the less consideration there is for those more, kind of underground tactics.
The time management
which is what I
stuff,
like.
Right? That's the action management, economy, etc.
But I've seen some of that, like the hero that we'll be spoiling for Order is that kind of hero. But you also look at it and you're like, is this even good enough? Because those kinds of clever tactics don't seem nearly as good as the overt tactics.
Just the pound you in the face. game.
But there's some good ones. All the removal cards that I've seen have been great.
As I walked in
cool
for this cast, saw the death card. That's like search your deck for 3 units, put them in your discard pile
to remove
a unit, which is cool. I mean, they're manipulating the game in like a weird way.
And I think it's good that hopefully the only like easy removal you find is in the first set. Those abilities, right? It's
just like the basic blood hunt.
Remove a thing and do something. Like now it should be, I've got to have a 2-stack orc unit to remove something, or I've got to have things to put on my discard pile, and I've got to deal with that. So those kinds of things are good. And I think Death should be the best at removal anyway, so all good. So what did you have? What did you on Champions?
Oh, I mentioned it, but they finally got the prize kits in.
Oh yeah,
I saw them on the counter as I was walking by. I don't know too much about them other than we've seen the preview at All Darts, and then I also happened to catch on the back. They come in these little boxes, the little like prize packs, which is cool. But apparently each of them also comes with a scan card.
Yeah.
Which I thought was the coolest thing. Because it's like, oh, wait a second.
It opens up possibilities.
You could do anything with this.
It totally opens up.
It's like even the reality of you're abstracting how many of these you've scanned, and then, your 10th one, you get this special thing or whatever. I mean, I think that makes the door wide open.
Well, imagine this too. Like these kinds of things become open to that system where, let's say your organized play kit has 8 scannable cards, and each of them, it's the same 8 in every kit, but each of them, when you scan it, you then go on a 4-game campaign, right? One against the orcs, one against death, and it's like a mini challenge game. And so like either you win those or like you distribute those ahead of the tournament, and then based on what happens, that changes the rules of the tournament. The number of things that they can do with this is outstanding. I'm sure it's overwhelming if you're a developer.
It's the magic of focus, right? Which is like, it's really not going to be about what all can they do, but it's what do they choose to do out of all those things. Because the door is wide open, I think, when you have that kind of integration, and then even just you mentioning that, right, immediately spiraled me down this like path of like, here's 100 ideas that you can do with this.
Yeah.
So I'll be curious to see where they take it. But again, even with the events like that, I would so much rather them lean into the like thematic campaign style elements.
Yeah.
We'll see.
All right, we'll see. Well, also some very relevant updates are on our side of the table, the Covenant side directly. So we've launched a Forgotten Mythos board compatible with Arkham Horror, the card game. It's incredible, one of my favorite products that we've ever made. It's been selling extremely well. Our Arkham audience, subscribers, and just general buyers and fans on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and everywhere, listen to the podcast. We thank you guys tremendously. It's so fun to be able to dive into theme because people are willing to buy it and use it. That's a rare opportunity, I think, that you can really explore a more artful approach to something rather than like raw efficiency and function. So that's really nice. And we've kind of got some plans. We're looking at the next cycle. We're looking at, we've got a gap between Dunwich and Forgotten Age, and there's Carcosa right in the middle of it. Is there a Carcosa board maybe that we're looking at? So we're thinking about expanding those lines after the success of the Forgotten board. And then we've also got, at this point, at the time of the cast is going up, I think I can say this because they're out here anyway.
You can definitely say
We've got a totally newly designed and redesigned Saga token set compatible with Star Wars Destiny. What we did is we went back through, and after receiving a lot of internal and external feedback on the resources, it was like, I think we can do these a little bit better, and people seem to want the square shape that they associated the resource with out of the core set, and just easier to pack and easier to move around and to store. So we converted those to squares, did a full redesign on those. I think they look even better.
I think they look great.
The technique used on the lines within those grates on the resource, I think, is something that we should come back to often.
It gives it that kind of like three-dimensional, it's like a holographic look almost.
It's, it's basically, and this is, I love this. I love what happens when you stop changing major variables and are forced to only be able to change minor variables, right? We've been working with acrylic for years and years and years. And then it went like, okay, acrylic, and we'll do some things. And then it's like acrylic, and can we paint fill it? And it's like acrylic, can we paint fill it on both sides? Acrylic, can we paint fill it where the bottom side can be seen through the top side? Can we cut directly through the acrylic? And can we stack it? Can we glue it together?
Burn it multiple times to create a dimensional effect?
Can we create? Can we fractalize this? Can we create gradients? And this is yet another kind of, with the exploring phase, this a familiar medium, a lot of familiar tools can we get a new effect? The answer was yes. Jonathan, again, doing a great job on this, and absolutely love those resources.
Yeah, they look great.
I think people are going to love those. Also, introducing 2 new tokens, a power token, which is really to mark your power actions on your characters. So anytime you use that power action, you can either flip it over, which it has a different side, front and back. So you can flip that over to mark that that's been used for the turn, or you can take it from off the board and add it as you like. That actually turned out, some of those early designs were hilarious, and then it turned out beautifully once we got there.
It got really good.
And then the overwrite token, which is a nice kind of parallax focus. It's that nice light green, and has a great look to it, and is a nice token to throw on the table whenever you've used your overwrite for the turn. Because that's something you'd been asking for a long time.
Yeah, well, it's really easy. I played Hanrei in the early days, right? And you remember, it's like upgrade over upgrade over upgrade over upgrade to gain 12 actions and then win the game. But they introduced, when Legacies came out, they introduced the power action, and then they also, and that's why that token exists now, but they also introduced the overwrite rule, which is you can only do it once a round. And so many times in games, you're playing, you get halfway into a turn, especially now that there's like decks with 3 or 4 characters that also have like 4 supports out and stuff. So like it just takes a long time. Not in a bad way, but just there's a lot going on at one little thing at a time. And you get halfway through and it's like, did I overwrite?
Yeah.
And it's like was that this round?
Was that?
Or last round? So yeah, you just drop
a token on it.
Upgrade.
Boom.
You upgrade it and you're done. But those are available. So that and the Saga character, what do we call them? Saga boards?
Saga boards, yeah. So the key point on the tokens too is that there's a limited time if this piques your interest.
This is really important.
There's a limited time upgrade set that is just the new tokens, the redesigned resource and the 2 new, the power and the overwrite. And those are available for a limited time, and then after that window has passed, those are no longer available, and the Saga token set includes all of those new things now. So if you have our Saga token set, jump on the store as quickly as you can to grab those upgrade packs if you want them. Yeah. Because those will not be here forever.
Basically, so that if you've bought them from us before, you don't have to rebuy the entire set.
Right. So that's the idea. And then the Saga board, so following in the footsteps of the Forgotten, or really the Dunwich Mythos board, and then the Forgotten Mythos board, and then the Saga board, which was our first run for the Masters series, the Covenant Masters series that we've done. Next one, November 18th. And it's 17th, sorry. November 17th. It's going to be incredible.
Yeah, we have a new set. How about that?
It's a new set right here across the galaxy. It worked out perfectly for us. We rolled the dice on the calendar and it managed to show up.
Thought, well, surely they won't release it on Thanksgiving.
Can you imagine trying to do a sealed event right now with what, Legacies? What was it?
I'll tell you what, that would have been canned.
Yeah, we had to cancel.
See you later. Yeah, so we did the boards. So the top 6 players at each of those gets a blue kind of like Jedi-inspired design, which I think is legit. And I've been using those boards, and I will say, like, it reminds me a lot of Arkham in that I haven't played as much Arkham, which I should. But
you really should.
That's a different story.
We'll get it on the cast again.
That's right.
Like Jonathan and I.
But what it does to your board when you actually clean up the board and put the tokens in the way this board works in the dice is really quite insane. And we did a promote, like an announcement video for it, which we really dive into it. But like as a player that has been just playing with it, and then the other day I forgot them at home, so I played without it, and I was just like,
you feel naked?
I did, and like my dice are just everywhere, and my tokens are all over my cards. And one thing to note is the power action token. You'll notice that I just realized that Vader's in this board, but the slots also fit the power action token.
Yeah.
So like when I was proxying Vader, was putting them on the bottom corner of the board. When I use the power action, you can just flip it really easily, and it's super nice.
Yeah. So we've got the boards, we've got the newly redesigned Saga token sets, and then we've got the limited time upgrade packs that are out. So if you're a Destiny player and if those things sound good to you, maybe give yourself a little early Christmas, maybe buy it for a Destiny player that you love and want to honor with a gift. Anything's possible. So those are out and available. Check those out.
Yeah, and if you happen to get to the product page and it says learn more or join the wait list, that means we sold out. So this is going to go up a day after we announce them. And I expect them, we'll see. I hope they people like them half as much as I do.
Yeah. Well, you're generally a pretty good barometer for what is is Star Warsy enough to really hit a
To-
strike
to-
a chord.
to make it
so
work.
we always call Zach in during the design process, like, hey, Star Wars, get in here.
We needed the Star Wars
What do
opinion.
you think?
That's super fun.
And then finally, real quick, just on a wrap up, I want to give a shout out to Mark Peterson up there in Ontario, Canada.
I was going to say the local?
If you can, if you're watching on YouTube and if you're listening right now in your car on the podcast, you should take a second and maybe click over to the video at some point and just see, because I've got all of my Arena Rex models painted by Mark.
These have been sitting around not being painted for a long time.
Year plus. I mean, I always get the new ones at Gen Con when we see Red Republic.
You have a ton of them.
Head to their booth. And so I finally was just like, I was talking about it on the podcast actually a while ago, and Chris Engler, old friend of WAP Caplets, he messaged me and was like, hey, I've got my buddy Mark here, and we play at like Black Knight Games and elsewhere. And he loves to paint, and maybe you guys could work something out. And so we did. And I sent them all up there, and they crossed customs just fine, even though it's a weird thing to declare.
Plastic models.
Yeah, they came back, and they look great. So Mark, if you're
just
listening, thank you for that. And Arena Rex.
Yeah, these look great.
One of my absolute
Perennially the game on the
favorite
fringe.
games. Now I might actually get it on the table more than once a year.
It looks awesome.
Right?
Yeah,
Man, they're
I'm
not
kinda
gray.
jealous.
They're not gray
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah, I'm currently on the paint days. I'm working my models up currently, so we'll see if I catch up. That's a lot of work to do.
That is a lot of work. All right, well, what's going on, Zach? Catch me up to your life. I mean, last time I really feel like I left off with you, you were getting married. What's
Well,
happened since then?
A lot's happened since then. I'm trying to think about what's even happened since last time I was on the podcast. That looks great over there. I got distracted. There's a picture of the Vader and the board.
The board, yeah, you'll see that on social here in no time, I'm sure.
I feel like I've been really busy, but in like a very different kind of way. There was a period where we're traveling a lot for work, and then pre-wedding and moving and all that kind of fun stuff. And now it's way more like social, but there was like 2 weekends ago was a Halloween party. The weekend after that was a Halloween party. This past weekend was a bachelor party for one of my friends.
Dude, it was. How did that go?
It was great.
To Matt for getting married.
Long
also.
time
Matt, if you're listening.
friend, customer, player of games, Matt Phillips is getting married this coming weekend. So again, 4 weekends in a row were like Saturdays just spent. But it was great. We we dressed up in tuxes and suits and stuff, and we went to in Tulsa. We have some casinos.
That's right. We sure do.
Run by the
tribe.
The tribe.
The various tribes, rather.
Yeah, the various tribes.
And now, if you're not from Oklahoma, you need to understand this, and maybe it's like this in your state. Certainly not in other countries, I don't think. Maybe there's something like this. But the tribes are essentially sovereign nations. So they're like not technically a part of the United States, but definitely still a part of the United States. But what that means is that their laws and the things that govern what happens are different on tribal land versus like federal or state or owned land, not owned by the tribe land, that is. And so what that means is that the taxes and the regulations and stuff are different.
Completely different.
So-
which is why they can have a casino.
So if you put a casino on tribal land, like I don't think you pay taxes out of those profits in the same way that you would a normal business. And so they're wildly successful. And that's why they're popping up everywhere.
Yeah, we actually, if you ever visit Covenant Tulsa, you can see a casino.
Yeah.
As you're like walking up, it's way behind, but like you can see this big building in the middle of, besides the Cityplex Towers. That's not the casino. But yeah, so we went there.
It's the Hard Rock, right? It's the Hard Rock.
Yeah, the Hard Rock.
Yeah.
Formerly the Cherokee Casino, now the Hard Rock Casino, and we just had a great time. It was super fun. Ended up going to Waffle House at like 2:30 in the morning,
That's
which is
usually a good
exactly
sign.
what you do. It's like
Yeah.
right there. But yeah, I mean, between that and then like dealing with all the new like living in a new place stuff, basically selling a bunch of old furniture and buying new furniture. And the funny part is the realization of like the fact that we moved all this furniture
And then sold it.
and then we're selling it. And as we're selling it, I was like, why didn't we do this like a month and a half ago or 2 months ago? But I digress.
That's a good question. That's a very good question.
Yeah, outside that, that's about it.
You do look a little tired, Zach.
Yeah,
I'll
I
be
am
honest.
tired.
You've
Well-
been tired like the past couple weeks.
I have been.
Is everything okay? Everything's all right?
I think let's break it open right here. No, things are great. I'm just ready for it to be.
It's a good tired.
after all of this. Yeah.
Well, you're about to go into the holidays and Thanksgiving and Christmas and all
the
that.
most important holiday, which is New Destiny Day.
Can you believe that's almost here? Like that whole...
That's like a football throwaway.
The whole time for the end of the year stuff.
Also, that's why I'm sad. Dallas Cowboys are awful.
Yeah.
And I knew they were going to be awful.
Yeah.
I'm becoming a realist. That's why I'm sad.
Yeah, realism and depression go hand in hand.
Yeah, because my optimistic, youthful self is leaving. He's out of here. I think between the...
Are you 30 now? Did you turn 30?
Yeah, I did.
That's what happens.
So Last Jedi came out, and then I had to deal with the internet on that. And then my birthday happened. I turned 30. And then I became an old curmudgeon. But like, I don't know.
It's too much. You're done.
I'm out of here. But it's still New Destiny set week.
All right.
Which means by the time this podcast is airing, I'm having a great time.
So tell me this then. Let's go there. I know you want to go there.
You can't not go there.
What do you think, man?
Train coming in.
So across the galaxy, you've seen some cards at least.
I've not seen most
some
of them.
blurry cards moving from place to place.
Yeah.
Any initial thoughts about this set? Now, I say this every time, but is this Jeremy's first official set?
This is actually it. We finally got there. As far as I know, either an interview or a conversation with him at some point, it came out that like Lucas, the original designer, had been a part of the development all the way through set 5, because I think they're pretty far out on design, like at least a good 6 to 12 months. So, and it's only been like not even a year since Lucas jumped ship.
Not crazy.
So that feels like forever ago.
Forever.
But Destiny's heading into year number 3. It's about to be 2 years old. November is like the pre-release time for the very first set way back in the day. December, it's like first weekend of December was when it came out 2 years ago.
That's so wild.
We're heading into set 6, which means we have the first full-size standard card pool of 6 sets. That's the biggest it'll be, and then after set 7 comes out, it's sets 4 through 7, so it's only 4 sets, then 5, then 6, then 4, then 5, then 6. But yeah, it's his first set, and there's like the macro level take.
What is your macro level take? I mean, do you see anything that's like, this is problematic?
My two answers. My macro level take is that I wish, and they won't do this, because they've said they will do something else, and they won't change their mind. I don't think they'll go back on it. If they're listening, and the proverbial FFG, I wish that they would come out and say, release this Thursday. I wish on Friday they would say, here's a list of all the regionals, because all the regional stores know when they're having them and where, but they haven't posted that list yet. So that's fun. But step 1, they say that, and then they combine that and say, we've decided to go ahead and rotate early. It's just trilogies for right now. This 3 sets, like we're just done. Because
oh my gosh, the uproar! I could hear it, Zach. I can feel it.
Yeah,
I can feel it from my hypothetical future.
That's maybe a controversial opinion, but
people would have a lot to say about that.
They would, and maybe they will in the comments. I'm gonna ask.
It's the internet. They'll always have something to say.
Yeah, they do. But the reality for me is that I look at, and I did my blog about Vader when they spoiled him, which really the main thing for me was demonstrating, because like the new Vader's cool, and you have the deck list, and we played him, and we did a live stream and stuff. But the reality of like what his design showcases against the first one, in terms of just a fundamental understanding of how the game works. Like we said earlier, the first 2 sets were designed before the game came out. Set 3 was designed when just the first set was out. And so you don't really get a clear picture until 9 to 12 months in of this. So like this is the first set that was really designed by someone who had experience with the game before actually designing, for the future. But when I look at the comparisons of the first cycle versus the second cycle, now that we have 2 of them out, it is so evident that the second cycle, including set 4 and 5, are so much better designed.
Yeah.
And part of that is that they, explore more because it's not the first set or whatever. But it's obvious, like if you look at the point cost of characters, the health, the general power level of cards, where it seems like the characters are getting more powerful and the events are getting less powerful. which I like because
good.
early on in the game, the events were too good.
Yeah, it's Star Wars Destiny, right? It's the characters.
It should be about the characters,
it's gotta
right?
Be that's why we did the boards. It's got to be
the
about
vehicles.
the characters.
Because this is a vehicle game. I mean, if you want to have a vehicle game, let's just get the pod racers going. You know, like a real pod racer game.
Yeah.
Anyways, like they play X-Wing like Mario Kart. It's like they have a map and then they have an X-Wing with their dials. And they're playing Mario Kart, and they have like the power-ups that you hit and stuff.
That's done in the X-Wing community right now?
Yeah, that is an amazing thing.
Remains to be one of the most interesting and best communities on Earth.
That is, anyways, the reason I'm saying that is they could do a pod racer miniature game. That's all I'm saying, if you're listening. But the set, it's very evident to me that like they figured it out. There are a handful of cards that, in that cycle, right? Like Yoda and Snoke are two of the cards that are like, seemingly good. Like it seems like these are a little too cheap.
They're very good
on the point cost. But at the same time, I'm looking at Han in Gen. Like if you compare this Gen to the previous Gen, she's got more health. She costs less points. She can pair with Cassian, which only makes sense. Han can play with Kira, etc. Han can play with Lando. Han can play with Beckett. Beckett can play with Val. And I know we did an interview with Jeremy. I think it was the one where I was playing against him. Mm-hmm. And kind of a handful of goals were make each side, hero and villain, unique. Make each color unique. So yellow, blue, red. Make the games last longer. So we're seeing increased health, right? And then make sure you can play thematic pairings together. Which is cool because like right now, some of the best decks are like Snoke, Sienna Ree, and what's the other card in that? Afra. And it's like you're not even in the same timeline. Like, you guys are 20 years separated. But what I realize, and this is what I don't think a lot of people are going to realize yet, because they're going to play standard. 6 sets, all these cards out. It's so easy to just keep relying on the card you've been relying on. But for the people that actually do venture out and play trilogies, which is
our next Covenant Masters after this seal, this
in December is the trilogies,
December.
Right? So the thing about that is like when 7 comes out, it's basically going to be trilogies plus 1 set. So you can get a really good idea of what the game's going to look like by just playing trilogies right now. But I think that game is going to look incredibly different.
Well, here's all you do. I mean, can't we leave it up to the people and just say like, let's just host trilogies tournaments.
Well,
let's just play trilogies.
If they would allow us to host and I don't know if this is possible or not. I'm just going off the caravan here. If they would allow us to host a regional as a trilogies event, I would personally be way more interested as a player.
We can't do that? They did that for Store Champs?
I don't know. Maybe we'll just do draft.
Or is it a premier event?
Yeah,
I don't know how this works.
Yeah, I don't know. Store Champs is a little different. It's a lower.
Seem a little more Wild Westy.
Yeah, well, it got crazy. But I'm genuinely excited. I think that it's clear they've learned a lot about how to design the game, and it's not just the characters getting more powerful or like more substantial, but it's also the event power level, in my opinion, is going down, or getting more interesting. Like one of my favorite cards I've seen is No Questions Asked. Mm-hmm. It's old Obi-Wan on there where he tells Han, 2 passengers, 2 droids, no questions asked, and no Imperial entanglements. But the card is 0 cost. I think you'll appreciate this. So 0 cost, you give your opponent up to 3 resources.
Okay.
For every resource you give them, you can remove 1 dice.
Wow.
So you lose a resource
That's
and give them a resource. And if you're on your battlefield, you draw that many cards.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. So it's like you pay 2 to them.
Yeah.
You remove 2 dice, and you draw 2 cards.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
That's great. I mean, these are decisions to be made by different people in different ways.
Yeah, and the immediate thing I do is that like Han's a swindler. So like I love playing fair trade, where it's like you resolve a resource to swap money with your opponent. So if I like pay you 3, remove 3, draw 3 cards, and then you can't spend the money before I can steal it.
Yeah.
It's like, that's just hilarious to me. It's like great. I paid you and then I took the money out of the briefcase on the way out.
Yeah, it's perfect. I assume that's a yellow card, right?
It's a blue card.
Blue card?
Yeah.
I thought these colors were supposed to be distinct.
Well, blue's paying the money. They're not getting money.
Right.
Yellow is the one that would steal or gain
yellow is about stealing or gaining.
Yeah, so blue is protecting, so they're removing the dice, right?
Okay. All right, fair enough. Yeah. Fair enough. So you're hopeful. It seems good. I do feel like it's on pretty solid footing now that Across the Galaxy is here, and to me, as long as the fundamentals stay there, like stay active, The sets continue to come out at the right pace, at the right tempo, at the agreed upon release schedule. And the card designs continue to be good, and we hit rotation next set. I think it's going.
Yeah.
Like it's off.
I think the biggest question marks for me about Destiny, sets 2 and 3 and 4, it was, by set Legacies it wasn't this, but sets 2 and 3 was like, man, the design is questionable.
Yeah.
But then once the design kind of has been under control, it has nothing to do with design anymore. I think it's purely legit, like business, logistical, marketing, hype, excitement level.
Yeah.
And we're, this year's been rough on Destiny. It's like Legacies came out in January. Yeah. There were 6 months until the next set came out. Or
Don't remind me.
And then there was announce the next set and wait 85 days to say anything about it again.
But then there were Gungans, Zach, and everything was fine.
There were Gungans. So anyways, all that said, we have a set, regional season's upon us. Then we're going to get the next set. Then we're going to have a world championship. I think the big thing, kind of going back to our champions discussion from earlier, is can they do something to get new people excited about the game? Because I think the people that are around at this point, we've kind of gone through the various plagues, so to speak, and like the people that remain aren't going to get sick from the plague, right? They're going to. It's a weird analogy, right?
Well built.
But the short version is that they're around, and I think the game's going to be great. I think rotation's going to be huge. I think regionals are going to be successful. I think the World Championship's going to happen. As long as product keeps coming out, everything's going to be fine.
Well, you can't worry about getting new players into the game until you can say the game's releasing on this date and then do it.
Yeah.
I mean, straight up. So if they can do that, then start pushing people into the funnel, essentially, as it were.
And I mean, just hypothetically, it's like, I'm not sure what you do right now to get a whole bunch of people interested in Destiny. Rotation's going to help.
Star Wars.
To get rid of a lot of stuff, but my hope is that they put out some, because set 7's normally when we get starters.
Yeah.
A fully playable, legal set of decks that are just like, I have no idea why those aren't like mainline people, right? Like it's got to pick your 2 most exciting. Period characters. Those go in the starter.
Here's the thing that is critical to understand too. I think you understand that I do a number of different marketing tasks here at Covenant.
Hopefully I understand that.
That you can look at an audience that is clearly defined as loving Star Wars, and that audience can be in the millions of people, maybe well beyond that. And they're not all playing Destiny.
Not even close.
You've got so much potential to get people that are already half foot in the door of understanding the universe, understanding the characters, wanting to have these kinds of experiences, and you just got to put it in front of them and tell them why it matters. As opposed to like a game like KeyForge, there's nowhere to go with that. You have to create an understanding of KeyForge. You can't just go get KeyForge fans and say, try this game of the thing that you love. So of all the games that can do it, I mean, they can go get Destiny players. They can make 1 billion Destiny players if it was done and done well. You got movies going on. You've got Star Wars conventions everywhere.
Well, and that's what I almost wondered too, is like, just structurally, it's like we know there's not a movie coming out for another year. It's like a year from December is the next movie.
Yeah.
But like, that to me is the kind of final hype train for this, which is like, that is when I would be just throwing the kitchen sink at it, of like heading into next summer. Mm-hmm. Like when the preview starts dropping of the new movie, people start getting excited again.
Are those ads, are Destiny ads showing up in front of the movie reel?
I mean, are we just giving starters out?
Yeah, I think that could be a good idea. I want to answer a question that I asked a couple of weeks ago because Michael Link did so on our Facebook page, which I think is worthwhile. I asked what the heck this necroquake thing is.
That was like our question at the end of a podcast.
Yeah. It turns out a lot of people that have no idea. There was a lot of answers. I was like, actually, I don't know.
I never looked.
But this is the best one that I found. Ask Kevin. The realms in Age of Sigmar. So this is the Warhammer time period, universe. That's all very confusing to me. Era, if you will. The realms in Age of Sigmar are aligned so that the magical energy is weakest at the center and strongest at the edges. You know, like a donut. Like the planets. Oh. Like gravity.
Isn't it the opposite of gravity? Isn't it the strongest at the center?
It's like centrifugal force.
It's like a donut.
Don't the planets move like donuts, though, ultimately? Orbits. The necroquake was part of a plan Nagash had executed to realign the axis of the realm to death, so the energy was concentrated at the center instead, where he could better access it. Whether the quake was Nagash's intent or the result of how that plan ended up going awry, I can't remember.
Okay.
So essentially, it seems like there was a plot So a lot of magical energy on the outside, no magical energy on the inside.
To flip it.
So we're essentially turning to go with your analogy, the donut into a donut hole, all pushed right to the middle.
Man,
and
our analogies have been on point today.
Whenever all of that happened,
Fire.
it created a necroquake, and now all death and
so
magic is
it's
breaking
a mix
loose.
of the word necromancer and earthquake. Is the word necroquake? Is that where we're coming from this? Is that what's happening?
Some would say that's true, yeah.
All
Ding,
right.
ding, ding.
Hey, let's get to some questions.
All right.
If you're unaware, you can use the hashtag AskCovenant on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Really anywhere on the internet, probably. And we might answer it right here on the show.
Search it every week.
I swear, it's just like, it's mind-boggling that there are enough people continuing to ask questions using hashtag AskCovenant.
Yeah.
For us to keep doing this. So
well, imagine how many questions you have just about anything gaming related, and if there was a place to ask them, wouldn't you try?
I think so.
Yeah, even if the hosts answering them have no idea what they're talking
That's
about.
right. It's just pure conjecture. So if you're listening or watching and you haven't ever asked us a question, please do. I'd love to answer it, and I'm sure Stephen would too. Nicholas Klusener?
That's right. Seems good to me.
Says, hey fellas, been following you guys for years, since 2011.
Awesome.
Wow.
Home of the long sale, I mean.
And the gaming market has expanded and changed quite a bit since then. With all the games you guys cover, it can sometimes be hard to decide which game to pick. Can you give some insight on how to pick a game that you guys feature?
Yeah. Hey, the new website is going to make that so much easier. We're doubling down. I'm just saying it. It's going to be so much better.
If things go according to plan, then this should be the last podcast that's released.
No way. There's no way that plan is going accordingly.
With the current website. So if you're not watching or listening to this on that new website, then marketing has failed.
We got a new website coming up. We make no promises. We always under promise and over deliver.
It will eventually be here.
The website is in development right now, and it's hard to not talk about the website in some kind of weird way. It always sounds like a dream far off, but it's a real thing. We're almost done with development, and so much of the new website is reflecting where we actually are as an organization, what we believe in, what we actually want to do, and how we provide value to people. And a lot of that is learning and teaching and finding out about new games you might want to play and making that as easy as we can make it. So to your question, Nicholas, this is a problem that we are aware of and are interested in aggressively solving. And you need a resource to basically tell you what kind of game is this, what kind of game is that, what kind of game is that. How do I play these games? I want to look at all the different properties and see which one is the most appealing to me. And so we will have some resources to allow you to do that in a much easier way here in a couple of weeks. So that should help you out. Secondarily, I think the best thing to do is look at our what is videos for each of these different games. I think that's what those are designed for. It's like a brief summary that we would give you if you walked into our store and you said, I'm looking for a new game, what do you have? What is KeyForge? What is Warhammer Champions? What is? And whichever ones sound good, go ahead and watch the next video or read the next blog, which is like how to play the game. And if you still like it, then you probably are going to dig the game.
Yeah, and I think the what is videos are great for that very purpose. And another thing you can do is once you've seen the what is and how to play, if you're still interested, buy whatever we're recommending to start with.
And
buy
my book.
Treat it kind of like a board game. Which is like, you may never buy anything else, right? But like, it's pretty cost effective to try each of these games, or a handful of the 2 or 3 you might be interested in. So the best way is kind of understand what the game is and how to play it, and then give it a try.
Yeah, give it a shot. Question 2 from Alex Gregory. Now that y'all are heavily exploring live streams, hey, must be from our part of the country, by the way, y'all. Do you think you'll start to stream your Destiny, X-Wing, etc. events in the future? When I first got into X-Wing a year ago, your videos were some of the first content I found. I miss seeing those, but I get how much of a hassle recording X-Wing must be. Not a hassle, more of a task that takes a lot of time.
Heavy effort. No, I mean, I think that is something, that's one reason I really like the live stream, is that it's allowed us to, we used to do a lot of gameplay videos if you weren't around for that back in the 2011 era. But the gameplay videos are an enormous.
They are an immense
What's immense
part of what we're doing, our content mix, if you will.
Tremendous. There it is. It was enormous and tremendous.
Get back to unpack and pack.
I need to get out of here, man. It's been a long day. Anyways, a tremendous amount of effort, and they were great, but at the same time, we started asking the question, Steve mentioned it on the website thing, which is, could we better use the same effort and how, what are we actually accomplishing with this? And while they were entertaining, they weren't really helping a ton of people. Like, there's just a lot of gameplay videos. So the stream, on the other hand, lets us play gameplay videos without all of the post-production editing effort.
The time is what we call it in the business.
Yeah, the time to do it. So we still get to do stuff like the learning series and learning content, but we also can kind of come back and do some of the gameplay stuff. So I will not be surprised if you see us streaming Destiny and or X-Wing in the future. And we've even been talking about getting a setup back in the store. We used to have it every night. We'd stream whatever was going on in the store. But it's like the Destiny launch is Thursday. I'm going to be in store all night playing games. I could pretty easily stream that if it was just kind of like actually set up to do so. So that's something we're considering, and if it's something you're interested in, please comment below, and that will help us decide how fast we should accomplish that or not.
We're definitely leaning more into live streams to follow up with a summary.
Next question here is from Miso about KeyForge. Do you think we'll see people mass buying decks to find one they want and to find the best ones for competitive play? The thing is, the decks are so cheap, just as people buy multiple boxes of Magic boosters, I can see people buying 3 or 4 boxes per expansion to get a really good competitive deck. It could happen. Edit, I'm buying a box.
Misa, great contributor too, always around on the live streams and whatnot, so thanks. It's good to hear from you. Hey, I'll answer this one. Here's what I think. Are you interested in that?
I'm going to let you go first, and then if I have to use my energy at that point, I'll decide then.
Here's what I think. I think the decks are so cheap, but I think 12 decks together in a box, you're getting into $100 range. And I think the human brain can do a lot with $100 and can live in a lot of hypothetical...
Is that a drug joke? The brain can do a lot with $100?
When I think
you can imagine doing a lot with $100.
When I think of what I could do with $100,
yeah.
It's different than what I could do with $10, right? So there's a big old psychological gap and a practical gap.
There's an order of magnitude, as they say in the business.
And I think that if you're looking at buying 12 decks right out of the gate, that can be intimidating for a lot of people, especially the target audience is what I'm viewing as the target audience for KeyForge, where it's not about completing your collection and having the best deck and all this. It's about discovery, exploring, having a good time, a little more casual. So what I think will actually happen, yes, there will be a subset of people, undetermined the size of these people, not like how tall they are, but the size of the segment, that will dive in 3, 4, 5 boxes. They will be on a vigorous search for what they feel to be the best deck. They'll post about things on Facebook and everywhere else. They'll say, your deck must have these 3 houses to be as good as these other decks. It must have at least 3 of these cards in it. It must. That'll happen, sure. I think it'll be a small minority. I think other people will end up buying 2 or 3 boxes of KeyForge decks over 3 to 4 months. I think it'll be a $10 deck this week and a $10 deck next week, and then, maybe like I had a really good night, so I'll buy a second deck at the end of the night. Maybe I'll buy a deck and give it to somebody, get them to start playing.
Or maybe you brought your friends, so you buy a second deck or whatever.
And pretty soon, you're essentially a couple of boxes in. And I think that's the majority of consumers for KeyForge are going to be buying it in the deck unit or the single box unit. I think that's about as big as the normal, like kind of even casual leaning player would go, is 12 decks. And then past that is just picking them up at a time.
Yeah, and I mean, I think there's a lot. There's so much to say. KeyForge is such a wild experiment, in my opinion. But the premise itself assumes that competitiveness is going to be, like, competitive best deck is going to be the thing everyone wants. Where I think the formats have already shown that that's not necessarily the case. Like, you don't necessarily just want the best deck.
In fact, Zach, I will be very honest about this. When we play on the stream, I'm not interested in having the best deck. Like, I don't want to open it and be like, oh, this is so good. I want to play something that looks confusing.
That's weird and that you make work in weird ways. Yeah, no, I think that's exactly it. And I think the funny part to me is, like, best deck. It's like, when you go to a tournament, at least in any competitive game I've ever played, best is relative. And it's relative to what everyone else is playing. So like in X-Wing, you can bring the best list and lose every game because everyone knows that's the best list and they're trying to beat that list, right?
Right.
So like in KeyForge, we played with a bunch of different decks, and like they are so wildly different.
Yes.
That the idea of, there's decks that get amber very fast in one way or another. There's decks that keep the board clear. There's decks that don't even play units or that many units. And so like the idea that you could find the best deck, I think it's just preposterous.
You can't test it with 1 million people online.
And the other thing is, they revealed this on the stream the other day, which is they said the app is going to track tournament results.
Oh,
and
it's official.
That's what I'm reading a quote posted on Reddit from their stream. So apparently the app's supposed to like scan the decks at least at like probably like store championship regional style events. And if a deck gets too good, it's going to get handicapped with chains. So like, even if you do find the best deck, it's like you maybe get a couple tournaments with it before it's less good because they're bringing it back
Fascinating.
down. But I would, anyways, so all that to say, there may be people that do this. I just don't think it's going to be most people. And like for me, I think it's more likely that I'll be at the store on a Saturday and I'll be bored and want to buy another deck to get a new experience. Buy the next deck, play for 2 or 3 hours, buy the next deck, play for 2 or 3 hours. But if I buy 2 decks and I get 6 hours during one day and I still get to keep the decks.
Somebody walks in, Zach, you want to buy a deck? I'll buy a deck, you buy a deck. Let's play some KeyForge.
Every time.
Every time.
And like the number of times where it's like, I mean, obviously I work here, so it's a lot easier for me to have my stuff here. But like the number of times someone will stop in and have an hour, they didn't bring anything because they're just out of work, and they'll be grabbing a beer or something, and then it's like, do you want to play KeyForge? And it's a deck.
It's there.
It's super
telling
cool.
It's there.
I'm excited. I'm just excited to see how the whole thing goes. All right, last question here. 2 questions, kind of the same topic. One's from Ozo.
Ozozo.
Ozo.
Ozo.
I don't know. That's an interesting.
Ozazo.
My brain is not processing it.
Ozazo.
Ozazo. There it is. Any thoughts on Nisei? Seems like the predictions were correct. Thanks. And then Anthony Pearson says, what are your thoughts on Nisei? While I imagine you would welcome people to play games and buy beverages in your store, how would you approach a game that actually can't be purchased in the store?
Yeah, these are good questions, aren't they?
So Nisei, I'm going to go ahead and give the filler and you can give me your answer.
Yeah, thanks. You might know more about it than I do.
Nisei is a fan-led group of people who are making Netrunner stay alive. The Netrunner LCG made previously by Fantasy Flight Games, previously a CCG by Wizards of the Coast, designed by Richard Garfield. But recently I saw they did the first prize kit.
Okay.
So it comes with, they actually look sick.
Of course they do.
But it's like
everyone in that community is super creative.
The kit comes with like 4 play mats and alt arts, whatever. It's just various stuff like that. But it looks great. And there's definitely a lot of momentum. I think they're trying to put out 1 set a year. Mm-hmm. One bigger set of here's new Netrunner cards that you can print and play kind of a thing. Okay. And I won't be surprised if they put together a World Championship and they have regionals or that kind of an event. So that is Nisei. I think in general, because of my link with the Star Wars community, I've seen the independent player committee for the Star Wars CCG run that game for 2 decades.
Yeah, so this is not any surprise.
No, that's what I felt like when it was going away, that like this is the kind of game that this could happen to. For a lot of reasons, honestly. One, the fans are so amazing and so like locked in.
Yeah.
And 2,
and it's a truly unique experience with Netrunner. I think it is, if you put it in the field of all like collectible games,
the system itself is just amazing.
It's in a different kind of space that it just doesn't feel the same as other.
And they also already have the tools built to play online, which I think was a huge leap for the Star Wars CCG back in the day.
Oh yeah.
Once they gained that, you can play with the digital cards. Right, you play all year, and then you get together once or twice a year at the World Championship or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think in general, I think it's really cool. I don't think there's any reason for a game not being produced by a publisher to go away. A community is a community is a community is a community. And as far as like our store goes, like people are more than welcome to play here, to hang out, and Netrunner for life, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, obviously, like as a retail entity, without product for us to be able to buy and sell, and even then, I don't even know if that's necessary.
Maybe that's not necessary on the retail level, on the retail store level, because I mean, let's face it, that's not where a lot of the sales are going to come from.
Yeah, and I think as a organization, and this is maybe the better answer, is a big part of what we're focused on at this point is making it as easy as possible for new people to learn and get involved in these communities. And a problem with a game like Netrunner is that as a community, it's very hard for a new player to get involved in.
Yeah.
They don't have the history. You can't just go buy cards off a shelf. There's not like a pre-made deck to buy. There's not necessarily like an active, thriving community base wherever in the world that you're going to go. Like it's probably in Star Wars CCG, it's very specific, where they only play a couple times a year. So there's just a lot of communities that are going to be a lot easier for us to get people into. And so that's really going to be, for a game like that, that would be our biggest challenge, is that we recently, it wasn't even a year ago, we did the Learning Netrunner series. that's going to stay up. The blogs are going to stay up. The video content's going to stay up, and hopefully that's helpful for people to keep getting into that game that want to get involved. But
maybe we need to do we'll probably have to do we'll revise that
video?
and then say like, hey, this is how it's gone now, and to get involved, go here. That would actually be super helpful. Yep. We'll do that.
Yeah, well,
make a note of it.
You know, I'm if we ever run out of things to do.
Yeah, right.
I've dreamed. I haven't literally had the dream. I've dreamed of doing the Star Wars TCG learning series, because that's just like,
oh man, that's meta.
Like trying to learn that game.
Impossible.
But two, then now trying to get in.
Yeah.
I forgot who I was talking to.
One day
it was Eric Wainwright.
Yeah.
So he's a great Star Wars Destiny player, and he's just he's been around. He played I forget the game, maybe Magic before, and
that old thing.
Yeah, he didn't ever get it on the Star Wars CCG, but he's very interested in playing against me. But it's like there's even to sit down and play our first game, it's like I need to build different decks just to like make this easier.
Yeah, you don't need to do moisture farming versus Vader.
Yeah, well, I have my villain deck is Dark Side is what it's called in that game. It's like this epic Vader Star Destroyer deck, and it just goes. It's a lot. It's not like it's just like exploring a lot of the things that are going on in that game, because it uses cards from across the whole thing. Anyways, but we'll see. I think the whole space isn't an interesting.
One day when we're retired, Zach, we'll do all the learning series for all the dead games out there.
Can you imagine doing a learning Star Wars TCG just for kicks? That'd be fun.
It'd be awesome.
Yeah.
We could call it relearning.
That game's still going on too. Do you know that?
That's not surprising.
There's a once-a-year set for that game.
Hey, that's the thing about physical goods, They don't go away unless you want them to.
That's right.
Or unless a disaster strikes. All right, that's it. We did it, guys. Thank you so much for listening. We do appreciate it. Of course, you can use #AskCovenant on Twitter, Facebook, maybe Instagram. It's harder to find them.
No, you can do it on Instagram.
YouTube is probably the most consistent because it's very easy to find those hashtags on our little control room for YouTube.
Hey, I have a question I want to ask the audience.
Okay, let's give it to
So we
him.
end with a question, and you answer in the comments on YouTube because you're awesome. The question I have, and this is, you may ask a generic question, but I'm asking a Destiny.
I don't have it.
I'm asking a Destiny question.
Yeah, bring it on. It's the release week.
I want to know, what would your reaction be if Fantasy Flight came out and said, trilogies, period. First cycle, gone, now. Not waiting for set 7, it's just gone. Reactions, thoughts, and I'm very curious to see that.
And they expect you to burn all of your old cards.
You have to burn them. Infinite's still around. Burn Hyperspace Jump, though.
Thank you guys so much for watching and listening. We do appreciate it. Until next time, start and keep playing.
Wow.